Hello and welcome to the daily newspaper analysis and initiative of the UPSConline.com and Ambition IAS. Today we shall be discussing the newspaper of the 28th of December 2017. So coming to the first article, this is an article on the editorial page of the Hindu and it is read as the post-poll Chalpal in Nepal. Now coming first and foremost to this fancy word Chalpal, this is a Nepalese word which means that a discussion which has no basis, also a discussion which obscures the future. So that is a Nepalese word which the author has used here to describe that how in Nepal, post every major event, such kind of baseless discussions happen. That is what the author is trying to bring about. Also, the opinion that the author has given is that as an ordinance holds up government formation, the left alliance needs to be large-hearted to find a way out. Now, what is the context of this editorial? The context is that recently elections have been held in Nepal. This is a watershed year for Nepal, that in the aftermath of its constitution, three elections have been held, one to the local bodies, one to the provinces and one to the federal government, and all these elections have been held peacefully and the results have been accepted by all. However, despite the successful conducting of elections, a government is not being formed in Nepal. And there is a controversy related to that, which is held up because of an ordinance. So this is the issue which the author has discussed in detail. So the article becomes important. Also, the article has a beautiful explanation of the background of Nepalese politics, which is good, and it's a rare piece where such lucid explanation is given. So that is why again the article is important. So coming to the background, first and foremost, the bicameral legislature in Nepal. The constitution of Nepal envisages a bicameral legislature which is going to have two houses, a House of Representatives and something called as the National Assembly. Now, the House of Representatives, like India's Lok Sabha, is the lower house, and this has a membership of 275 total members. And the Nepalese Assembly, the National Assembly is going to have 59 members. Now, of these 275 members, 165 members are to be elected through the first past the post system, and the remaining 110 members are to be elected through the proportional representation method. Also, in the National Assembly, of the 59 members, 56 members are to be elected indirectly through an electoral college, and the remaining 3 members are to be nominated. So the issue is related to mainly the National Assembly. Now, also a brief about the political parties in Nepal. Nepal has a multi-party system and three basic parties are there, three major parties are there in Nepal. The first one is the Unified Marxist-Leninist, which is also known as the UML. This is the party which has won majority in elections, in the current elections, and it is headed by Mr. KP Oli, who is set to be the Prime Minister of Nepal. The second party is the Maoist Party. This is headed by Mr. Pushpa Kamal Dahal. He is also known as Prachanda. The third party is that of the Nepalese Congress, and the UML plus the Maoists have collectively formed something called as the Left Alliance, and this Left Alliance is set to govern Nepal. So that is some background. Now coming to what is the issue related to the National Assembly. Now the issue is that in the National Assembly, because elections are to be held by an indirect vote, an electoral college is to be formed. This electoral college which shall comprise of the provincial assembly members as well as the local body members. Now the issue is that the winning party, that is the UML under Mr. KP Oli, has advocated the system of first past the post system of elections for the indirect elections through the electoral college, whereas the other parties are requesting for a single transferable vote system. Now, for those who do not understand what a single transferable vote is, now suppose you have 4 members who are standing for a particular seat. For example, a seat to the National Assembly, there are 4 candidates. Now, the voter who is going to vote for these 4 members, instead of simply choosing one member, as in the case of first past the post system, is going to give a preference where he is going to say maybe 1, 2, 3 and 4. So, if in case his first member is not winning, his second preference vote is counted. If even the second is not winning, then the third preference vote is counted. So, in such a scenario, the system is considered more representative rather than first past the post system, which is an all win or all lose situation. So, in such a scenario, the single transferable vote is considered better and many people are advocating for it. An ordinance is lying with the President of Nepal and it is yet to be passed. So that is the whole issue. This is the entire controversy regarding the National Assembly. Now, why the intention of the UML, that why the UML is interested in having the first past the post system is because it has a majority in the electoral college. Of the seven provinces in Nepal, 6 have a majority of UML or the Left Alliance. And also in the local body elections, when the mayors and chairmen are expected to vote, the UML has a majority there also. But 294 mayors are from the UML as from the total of 753. So that is the intention of UML, which wants its way around. So the issue here is that the constitution is not clear on this, and therefore there's a roadblock here. So that is the issue. Now, another thing that is important here is that there is a provision for 33% of women's reservation in Nepal. This is a part envisaged in the constitution. However, the issue is that with any shortfall being made in the proportional representative list, here I told you that there is a part of it, 110 members will be elected through proportional representation. Now, in case that the Parliament of Nepal does not have 33% of women's reservation, 33% women are not elected directly, in that scenario, the compensation is done by this proportional representation list, where women accordingly, depending upon the shortfall in their number, will be elected for this. For the parliament. So now the issue here is that because the National Assembly seats are not being declared, so the decision cannot be drawn as to what is the shortfall of the number of women in the parliament, so as to be compensated by the proportional representation list. So this has created a confusion. So, because of this reason, the 110 proportional representatives are not being notified, and so the entire parliament is unable to meet and function, and therefore the election of the the Prime Minister, Mr. KP Oli, stands blocked at present. So this is the entire political problem in Nepal at present. Also, coming to the suggestion that the author has given, he has given a good suggestion regarding the politics of Nepal. The suggestion is that instead of adopting a hardliner stand, Nepalese politicians, especially Mr. KP Oli, who is now said to be, elected as a Prime Minister of Nepal, he should take a broader view and rather have a large heart to accommodate other opinions as well, and should not go in for a hardline stand. And in the interest of democracy and interest of government in Nepal, he should accept this suggestion of the single transferable vote. Regarding the President of Nepal, I had to mention that Mrs. Bidya Devi Bhandari is the President of Nepal, and she is a UML loyalist. And that is the reason that this ordinance is lying pending with the President, and she has not passed this ordinance. So this is a sort of a complex political situation that has arisen in Nepal. Now, also the article analyzes some bit of India-Nepal relationships, which is important for your examination point of view. First and foremost, the issue is that with Mr. KP Oli all set to become the Prime Minister, India's relationship with Nepal will depend upon its leadership. And the history of India's relationship under Mr. Oli's 9-month tenure in 2015 and 16 is not a good one. Because it was at this point of time that Mr. KP Oli accused India for supporting the Madhesi agitation in the opposition of the Constitution of Nepal, which led to an economic blockade. So that is one, irritant between India and Nepal. Another thing is that he also accused India of, being the reason for the withdrawal of the Maoist party's support in the year 2016. So you have to understand that the background with Mr. KP Oli is not a very pleasant one. Also, as I have mentioned previously also in my discussions on Nepal, that there is a anti-Indianism is equal to Nepalese nationalism. This you have to understand, that whenever parties are canvassing for the elections, so nationalism in Nepal is something of an anti-India sentiment. So this is an important point. Also, Nepal is now an eager participant of the Belt and Road Initiative of China, and it is playing to the China card. So that is again another irritant between India and Nepal. So some suggestions have been offered by the author here. These suggestions are that definitely, this suggestion I would rather suggest for all other countries also in diplomacy, that these countries being small countries, are definitely being tempted to go into Chinese embrace, but they have to understand, and they are definitely cautious themselves of, adhering fully with a country as large as China. So that is one, concern that India should play with. This is what majority of the authors are suggesting in their editorials, that India should take the benefit of this reluctance in nations to fully participate with China, and India can fill that vacuum. So that is one suggestion that the author has again repeated here. Another thing is that India needs to address the concerns quietly, rather than having political uh, chest thumping in case of Nepal. That is one issue that the author brings about. Also, he calls upon India to fast track important these reconstruction and development projects that India took up in the aftermath of the devastating earthquake in 2015, and also finish these projects at a fast track pace. So that is another thing. So that's about this article. This is an important article from international relations point of view. So there is the importance. Coming to the next second article, through the smog screen. This is an important article again, because the topic of air pollution is something very prominent now and important. So that is why the article assumes its importance in today's discussion. Also, coming first and foremost to the context. The context is that of rising Delhi air pollution. Recently, there has been a cricket match held in Delhi with Sri Lanka, a test cricket match where the Sri Lankan players have been seen to be wearing pollution protection masks. So this has come as a big disgrace to the nation as a whole. So that is the context of this article. Now, something that the author has brought about is regarding the citizen movements in Delhi. Now, he talks about the fact that the very popular Anna Hazare movement for corruption, also the citizen movement in the case of Nirbhaya, were prominent as and seen in Delhi as a major movement. However, regarding Delhi air pollution, no such citizen-centric movement has been seen. So that is one concern that the author raises, that despite this being a major hazard to the Delhi population itself, the citizenry is not yet, risen up. So that is one thing. Also, the author brings about a very good analysis of the issue of paddy stock burning. Now, the issue here is that because of repeated paddy stock burning by farmers in Haryana and Punjab, these are contributing to the regular crisis of pollution in Delhi, and this has become an annual event. Many people are also accusing the Green Revolution, which made Punjab a primarily paddy growing destination. Also, the Punjab Preservation and Subsoil Water Act of 2009 prohibits farmers from transplanting rice before June. So they will take advantage, so that they can take advantage of the monsoon. Now, because in Punjab there is a problem of groundwater conservation, in that interest, this law has been passed. However, as per this law, only a window period of 20 days is made available to the farmers to get their fields ready for sowing wheat after harvesting paddy. So, the author brings about a case in the favor of the farmers, where he says that this behavior of paddy stock burning by farmers is a compulsion for them rather than an intentional environmental vandalism by these farmers. So, the case is in the favor of farmers in this editorial. Now, the second point that the author has brought about regarding pollution is that major contributor to pollution in Delhi is that of solid waste burning and vehicular pollution in Delhi, which the author says is being done by the citizenry in Delhi itself rather than any outside party to blame. For example, the concern that the author has brought about is that people in Delhi and even the experts are shifting the focus from the citizens in Delhi to outside farmers. Though definitely there is an issue that they are contributing to pollution, but the major source of pollution is not these farmers, but rather the issue of poor solid waste burning and vehicular pollution in Delhi. That is the case that the author has brought about. Another thing that the author has suggested is something on the behavioral change. Now, this is important because many times this kind of question that you will be provided in many opportunities where you will get to discuss the behavior component in schemes. So, this is important. Now, the issue is that despite the fact that pollution levels in Delhi are alarming, a behavioral change is not being seen in the citizens of Delhi. Why? Because for solid waste management, something that is the core, most important requirement is that of segregation of waste at source. This is something that the citizens of Delhi are unwilling to do. Also, in regards to the vehicular pollution, the author brings about a case that how vehicles are continuously rising in Delhi, and private vehicle numbers. The government is not taking significant steps to curb registration of these vehicles. So that is another issue that the author has brought about here. Then he also suggests that the issue is not of pollution largely. This is an important point. The issue is something larger than mere pollution. It is an issue of irresponsible consumption by the citizens and something of an urban misgovernance. So that is another important point that the author has brought about. He also suggests that basic, championing of the cause of air pollution in Delhi has been done by the courts and the NGT, and the government has not taken stern steps in this regard. Though definitely there was a reactionary policy of odd even policy by the government, but policies of long term which should deal with these problems and what is needed by the citizens of Delhi. So that is the entire analysis where the author brings about a shift in focus from outside to introspection within by the citizenry of Delhi. That is what the author is trying to advocate here. Some good suggestions he has given, which include, measures like more car-free zones, increased taxation on sale of private vehicles, clamping down on illegal parking, and making a garage a prerequisite for car purchase. So these kind of suggestions are there. These are good suggestions, and these can be added to your answers whenever there's an opportunity on writing on pollution. So that's about this article. Coming to the next article, this again is a very important article because this is an article on triple talaq, and this is a very good and a basic analysis of the law, which the author says is a very flawed law. Now, the opinion that the author has given is that the proposed bill criminalizing instant talaq has no legal basis and is riddled with contradictions. So that is the importance. This editorial is largely a critique of the triple talaq bill, which is under the preview of the parliament. So the context is the Muslim Women Protection of Right on Marriage Bill 2017, which is going to be put up in the Lok Sabha under the present winter session of the parliament. So that is the context. Now coming to some background of this issue. Basically, the intent of the government has been to protect the rights of married Muslim women and to prohibit divorce by pronouncing talaq by their husbands. Because of this triple talaq, this is a regional law, religious law. I'm sorry, not regional, a religious law. Because of this, instantaneous talaq is given to a woman, and this makes the woman vulnerable. So the intention has been noble, that is to protect the rights of married women. Now, talaq here is defined as talaq-e-biddat or any other similar form of talaq having the effect of instantaneous and irrevocable divorce. So it's not only triple talaq, but any other form of talaq which is having the power of irrevocable and instantaneous talaq. So that is the background of this article. Also, in August 2017, there was a judgment by the Supreme Court where triple talaq or talaq-e-biddat as a practice was considered unconstitutional and was rejected. So that is the background. Now coming to some issues. Now the issue is that certain sections in the proposed bill, like the section 3, 4 and 7 of the draft law, as per which the pronouncement of talaq-e-biddat by a person on his wife shall be void and illegal, and whoever pronounces such a talaq shall be punished with imprisonment extending for a term which may extend to 3 years and a fine, and the offence would be cognizable and non-bailable. So this is the provision of the law. Now, what are the contradictions in this law? So one thing I would like to mention is that section 3, 4 and 7 is what the author is discussing. So this is what is important. Now coming to the contradiction. First and foremost, a good analysis that the editorial brings about is that how after rendering talaq-e-biddat inoperative in section 3. Section 3 of this law says that talaq-e-biddat is something that is illegal. Now, if it is illegal, then it is a nugatory pronouncement. Now, how can this be considered as a cognizable and a non-bailable offence in section 4 and 7? These sections of the law consider it a non-bailable and a cognizable offence. So, if something that is already declared as inoperative, how can that thing be a criminal offence? Asks the author in this editorial. So, he says that can a law criminalize an act after conceding that it does not result in a crime? So that is a very good analysis that the author has brought about. The second issue is regarding section 5 and 6, which discuss post-divorce issues such as a subsistence allowance for the woman, custody for her minor children. So the question here is that this analysis in section 5 and 6 of the draft law amounts to an acknowledgement that her marriage is dissolved after pronouncing a triple talaq. So that is again a secondary contradiction in this article. So the law is definitely something that is a confusing one, and the author says that this is not in line with the Supreme Court judgment. That is another issue, and he gives certain suggestions as you need not go into the details of these cases that the editorial brings about. This part is not useful for you, but some suggestion is that a case has been drawn from Pakistan where he says that once a person has pronounced triple talaq, it does not hold any validity even in Pakistan. But if a person has pronounced triple talaq, a notice has to be given to a arbitrator within 30 days, and if a person fails to give that notice to the arbitrator within 30 days, he shall be liable to a crime. Then it becomes a cognizable crime, and after the period of 30 days, the arbitration council takes up the matter, and thereafter divorce proceedings take place. So this is a good suggestion that the author has brought about, that how we can take some feedbacks from Pakistan, and the law in Pakistan can be a good guide for India. So that is the suggestion that the author has given in this regard. Coming to the next article, Out at Sea. India should remain a balancing power and anchored in the Indian Ocean. Now, this is a very important article because Indian Ocean is something that is very important, not only from international relations point of view, it is important from geographical point of view. So, from many arenas, this is a very, very important topic. And the article has some good analysis on the Indian Ocean diplomacy. So coming to the context is a recent national security strategy that has been laid down by the US, where it has called China as a challenger and a rival, while India is called as an emerging leading global power and stronger strategic and defense partner. So that is the context of this article. Also, US has been keen on, raising quadrilateral cooperation with Japan, Australia, and India. Now, the author warns in his editorial that India should be cautious at such gestures by the US. Firstly, because it should avoid being pitted as a front in the US efforts to check China's rise. Also, focus should be on Indian Ocean rather than Indo-Pacific. So, that is what the author has given a good warning, that India's concerns should at present be on the Indian Ocean diplomacy rather than the Indo-Pacific diplomacy, which is the primary concern for US. So, that is the first analysis. Now, next is India's role as a balancing power. The author brings about a good analysis that India has always been a balancing power, whether it is in the past where the Cold War was existing. There also India came up with the idea of non-aligned movement, and also in the modern times India continues to be a balancing power. So this is a role that India has played historically, and it should continue to do that. Also, now, not only that, I would like to mention one thing here as the balancing power. The explicit policy that has been stated by the Indian Prime Minister is that India should shift its role from a balancing power to a leading power. So that analysis is also important in this regard. Now, coming to the Indian Ocean region. Now, marking the boundaries of Indian Ocean region, it starts from the Gulf of Aden and goes up to the Strait of Malacca. Now, despite India's commitment to global rule-based order, India needs to strengthen its position in the Indian Ocean region, says the author. Also, he says that India should not expect others to replace or lead India? Because India is focusing more upon international strategies in this region, which the author is condemning. He says that India needs to take up a leadership role here. Also, he says that following other countries as a leader, like following US as a leader in the Indian Ocean, would amount to ceding space in the long run, which is not in the interest of India. Also, two ways for India to increase its leadership role in the Indian Ocean is firstly that of beefing up India's capacity and securing Indian interests, and also secondly expanding partnerships to fill voids. So that is a good suggestion that the author has made, that how can India strengthen its stronghold in the Indian Ocean. Also, the role of India as neighbors, says the author, is important, where he says that definitely India's partnership with countries like the US, Japan, Australia is a welcome one, but India cannot negate the role that its neighbors will have to play in the Indian Ocean diplomacy of India. So that importance has been raised by the author. This is also in line with Prime Minister Modi's explicit foreign policy of neighborhood first policy. So that is again important here. Then coming to the next part is that of the bilateral logistics agreement with Singapore, which has been signed recently. This is the second bilateral logistics agreement after the US that has been signed with Singapore, and this provides India access to the Changi naval base at the mouth of Strait of Malacca. Now, such multilateral exercises with ASEAN are also in the pipeline, and similar logistics agreement with other countries will ensure India greater infrastructure in the Indian Ocean. So this is a very good example which can be used in answers regarding strengthening of India's role in the Indian Ocean. You can also suggest that similar agreements should be signed more to strengthen India's position. Now, another good suggestion that the author has given is that the recent Goa Maritime Conclave, which was hosted by the Indian Navy and comprised of the naval chiefs and maritime heads of 10 Indian Ocean littoral states, was something that was held in India 1 month back. So this is something that the author has appreciated in the editorial. He has said that how in this conclave all the participants brainstormed on ways to improve cooperation in the region. Therefore, India led the initiative, where the Navy has offered to share information of maritime movement in real time. So this kind of a situation, this kind of an idea, this kind of a leadership role by India is something that is welcomed, and you should quote this as a way ahead, as a step forward in the direction of Indian Ocean diplomacy and strengthening India's position there. So that's about this article. Coming to the next article, unseemly spat. Now, the opinion is that India and Pakistan must step back from the accusatory exchange over the Jadhav reunion. Now, the context is that of Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav, who is an Indian naval officer, his meeting with his mother and his wife. This has led to a media outburst and, a lot of controversy between the two countries. Now, before I discuss what is the controversial aspect of this meeting, let me just raise some genuine Indian concerns with the editorial has brought about. That there are, despite this, media hype, there are some genuine concerns, some genuine problems that India has had against Pakistan. So, first and foremost, there was a huge delay in this meeting. India has been requesting this meeting for a long time, and this has been delayed by the Pakistan government. Also, the secret military court trial and trial on terrorism and spying charges that have been hurled at Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav is something that India has objected to. Also, there was no consular access provided to India, which was against the international norms, and as a result of which India had to go to the International Court of Justice, against Pakistan. So that is another concern of India. Also, this humanitarian meeting between Mr. Jadhav and his family members has been turned into a media circus by Pakistan, accuses India. As you know, there was a media statement by Mr. Jadhav where he thanked the Pakistani government. So this kind of a media play which the Pakistani authorities have done is something that India has objected to. So these are the genuine concerns of India. Now, the issues that the author has brought about is a very good and a balanced analysis, and I would recommend you to opt for this suggestion. First and foremost, the issue is that the lady, Mr. Jadhav's wife, was asked to remove her Mangal Sutra, her bindi, etc., change her attire. But the author brings about a good balanced analysis where he says that most prison manuals in India itself mandate removal of all metal objects and accessories. While several prisoner family meetings across the world take place, through glass screens. So this is not something that should have been hyped, and it should have been said that, his wife was made to meet him as a widow and all that. So these are irresponsible statements which the politicians have hurled. So that is one thing that the editorial brings about. So another thing is that, this is the most important part that I would suggest, is that in regards to the India-Pakistan relation, time and again there is being an accusation by experts and diplomats and other like-minded people that the relationship has taken a downward spiral or have worsened because of irresponsible political statements in both of the countries, and more so now by the present government. Like, for example, in the past, during the time when, the surgical strikes took place in the aftermath of the Uri attack, again, there was immediate political chest thumping on the issue. Now, the many experts have been suggesting something as quiet diplomacy, which they are advocating for India and Pakistan as a solution. But this is something that the government is not following. So this is one suggestion that I would suggest you should give in your answers. Also, he says that when a life is at stake, now you have to understand that Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav, even if we might say that he is honest, and we have to definitely agree to our government stand that he is, he's being wrongly kept in captivity by Pakistan. But the issue is that his life is at stake. So such political point scoring at such a point should be avoided, because this can result in the loss of a precious life here. So that is the suggestion that the editorial has made, and I would suggest that you should keep this opinion. This is a good opinion, a balanced opinion, and a welcome one. So that's about this editorial. With this, I finish today's discussion. I thank you all for watching this video. I would request you all to recommend our video to your friends, and we shall be expecting your feedback. So hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.